Hello, everybody. Andy Goldberg here. Welcome to the Founders Chair podcast. And I'm very excited to have on the show today John Cox from Cox & Co. in Edinburgh. John, welcome to the Founders Chair.
Andy, hi. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Real pleasure to have you on the show today. John, why don't we just start, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about you personally, where you're from, what you get up to when you're not at work, and so forth.
Yeah, sure. So, I live down in the Scottish borders, in a little town called Peebles, beautiful little tourist town, sort of 22 miles south of Edinburgh. I live down there with my wife and my two kids and my crazy working Cocker Spaniel dog. Um, I basically grew up in Aberdeen, in the northeast of Scotland. Moved to Edinburgh at 18 years old, and so I've been down south, shall we say, a lot longer than ever was up north. And yeah, I try and live a pretty peaceful, quiet existence away from work in the borders, where I'm either golfing, fishing, walking the dog, or enjoying the good things in life. I love barbecuing, and I love a really nice glass of red. That's my life. I live a pretty quiet existence away from my business.
And I mean, so you live in, beautiful part of Scotland. Peebles is lovely, very outdoorsy and beautiful. And then you work in Edinburgh beneath the castle. Like you've got a pretty scenic schedule, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I use my commute wisely is the best way to put it. I speak about this quite often. I am My main non-negotiable in life is I do the school run in the morning. So I drop my oldest, my daughter at primary school at 8:45, and then I've got an hour's drive into the office. So I'm an hour door to door from the school and playground to sitting at my desk. So I'm always at my desk by 10 o'clock every day. And it's funny that kind of slow lifestyle, enjoying the countryside, if you will, every morning. Then it's a quick shoot into Edinburgh. It's 100 miles an hour until sort of 5 o'clock, and then it's straight back home for the witching hour, dinner, bath, in bed with the kids, where I'm super dad and try and get back to being a good husband again. And yeah, but it's fun. It works for me. It definitely works for me having this sort of non-stop 5 days a week, pretty mad schedule.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us a little bit about how your business came about in the first place. At what point you decided to take the plunge, and what gave you the confidence to go out on your own?
Yeah, so my background was always rugby. Rugby was and still is a huge part of my life. I played rugby from 8 years old and only retired from playing 4 years ago. Um, when I moved to Edinburgh to play rugby. I went sort of professional, if you will, at 18, and I had 5 years playing professional rugby around the UK and in the south of France. I basically, as I'm very open to say to people, I was a very good rugby player, but I probably wasn't quite there to go and make the next step and get countless caps for Scotland and become a British Lion. That was always my dreams as a child, but I kind of learned in my early 20s that I can be a good pro, I can be a good rugby player, have a great rugby career, but I'm probably going to need to lean on something else to make real money for the rest of my days. I've always been quite switched on. I've always been quite financially minded and driven with money, finance. I've always wanted to have cash in my pocket, being really open. At 23, I went self-employed. I finished my last contract in rugby and set up as a mortgage broker at 23 years old. My father was a mortgage broker up in Aberdeen. I had a good life. My parents gave us lovely holidays, did all the nice things, as you can imagine. And I always see my dad did well for himself. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do the same. But typical hard-headed John, I wanted to do what my dad did. I just didn't want to work for him. So I set up self-employed at 23, got my mortgage exams, and slowly went off to try and build my own mortgage brokerage in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Literally drove to IKEA, bought a desk, and put it into my little flat that I had at the time. I said, right, where do I begin? And that was the start of the journey. And here we are,
Yeah.
20 years later.
Jeff Bezos didn't even do that. He used a door as his desk,
Yeah, yeah.
famously. So, okay, so just back to the rugby for a second. As we're recording this, we're in the middle of Six Nations,
Sure.
right? How are Scotland doing?
We're not doing as well as I would like. I think we're not doing as well as they would like either. Um, Again, as always, lots of glimpses of hope and some fantastic rugby being played, but it's just not falling into place, unfortunately. Yet another year of disappointment. Um, a lot of hard graft from the team, from the players, the coaching staff. I know a lot of the guys. I'm very fortunate still being involved in rugby to some extent. That a lot of these guys are friends and clients. So I get a good bit of intimate insight, shall we say. And there's a lot of frustration in the Scotland camp this year. Lots of frustration is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah, we all do. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating, and we just want nothing but the best for them. And the weekend against England in the Six Nations just passed was probably one of the most frustrating games of rugby I think I've ever watched.
Do you know what though? If you can characterize one thing about the Scottish people is your support never wavers. Like you always have this belief, but which is a good, or maybe not. I don't know, but it sounds to me like you might always be frustrated and you never really get your way in the
Yeah.
end, but you never stop. You never stop.
Andy,
Right?
Andy, we like a good moan. We like a good moan here in Scotland, but there's always an air of positivity around most things. We're very good at putting spins on things, and yes, lots of moaning. There's a wee bit of negativity around it, but ultimately, you look, there's a lot of positives to take from it as well. And at the end of the day, you get to watch a game of rugby, of fantastic spectacle, have a few drinks with friends, socialise, enjoy the experience. And the Six Nations, in my eyes, is one of the best sporting tournaments in the world, 100%.
Yeah. So okay. So 23, you went to IKEA. You put together a desk.
Sure.
Tell me what's happened now. So fast forward from then till now. Tell us about your company, what you do, you offer, and who your customers are.
Yeah, so Cox & Co, we are four businesses under the one roof, as I like to say. Cox & Co is a true turnkey service for buyers, sellers, renters, investors within the Scottish property market. So we are master mortgage brokers, letting agents, estate agents, and property investment specialists all under the one roof. So that in itself brings a lot of complications, and it's important to try and break that down so people have a proper understanding of what it is we can actually provide you, the consumer. I like to talk in case studies, if you will, or in kind of basics. So we might have a first-time buyer come through the door this morning in the office, and they come in, a nice couple meets one of my mortgage team, and they walk out here absolutely delighted with, that agreement in principle certificate. They walk out all excited. I've got, we can buy our first house. Right through to this afternoon, I know we are sitting down having a discovery call with an ultra high net worth client based out of London that has been introduced to us from a large wealth management business, and their intention is to invest just over £1 million into Scottish real estate. And what we will be doing for that client is, once we kind of go through that initial discovery call, we'll be analysing their investment risk, building out a lovely sort of investment battle plan, if you will. We'll be sourcing the properties for them across the Central Belt. We'll be arranging the lending internally for them. We will negotiate and source and package every last property they buy within that portfolio. And when it all completes, tie it up in a nice big bow, and we will manage those properties moving forward as well. Essentially becoming their stockbroker for bricks and mortar. So the best way to put it is the business has been built on single transactions, so we'll happily take on one-off landlords and manage a flat here and there. No problem. Love that. We'll do one-off mortgages, remortgages, house purchases, all that good stuff. That's no problem. And we'll sell your house for you. And that's absolutely fine. But the real meat of Cox & Co, the real niche as well, if you will, is our property investment services is seriously one of only I think how the best way to put it, where we are literally the only firm that has all of those services under the one roof.
And that's important to people these days, isn't it? Because it's complicated, and you get a lot of different opinions and advice, and everybody's offering you their specialist services. And
Andy, listen, there's lots of letting agents that have delved into estate agency and vice versa. There's lots of mortgage brokers that have maybe dipped their toe into lettings. That's absolutely fine. And anybody who is on LinkedIn these days, I'm sure, like me, are more than frustrated with every second person connecting with you now, trying to call themselves property investors or property sourcers or property investment specialists when actually they've spent 5 grand to go on a weekend course at a local Marriott hotel and they've given up their day job to become a property sourcer and they're mad and it drives me crazy because I've been doing this now for 2 decades and I do have a serious niche. We have got a huge part of the Edinburgh market here that's available exclusively to Cox & Co. My property investment team are actual property investment specialists, and I lead up that side of the business, and that's what I know intimately. And it drives me mad that there's a lot of folk out there who are trying to play at it, and by playing at it, they give us a bad name. It's hard enough. Property management and lettings in Scotland gets a bad enough name. Estate agents get an even worse name. So when we actually specialize in property investment and every second person who's now wanting to try and get into it are plastering all over social media and LinkedIn that them too are a specialist, I find it disgusting. But that's for another day. I'm not, I don't want to be too negative.
No, no, you're not being negative. And John, look, if you think property investors and estate agents have a bad name, try business coaching.
Fair, touche,
Try
yeah.
being in my industry where we're real business coach. We have real systems and processes, and then there's people out there who just couldn't do it, and so they'd rather teach it and don't have any. But anyway, no, we're not. It's good news for us because we know that it elevates us above the rest, doesn't it?
Andy, we'll do it. We'll do an evening podcast over a glass of wine or a beer, and that would be a really interesting podcast to do, an after dark podcast with. But that's for a different story. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the key really is delving into the company's North Star. It's building out something that has some genuine meaning and building a team around it and having real strengths in honesty, integrity, accountability, professionalism, and experience, genuine experience. So you can provide that gold standard service to the clients, whether they are coming in for a single transaction with us or wanting to look for us to build a relationship with them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, John. First of all, I love your idea of the After Dark podcast, like the Founders Chair podcast, raw.
Yeah, yeah.
Raw and uncensored.
I think it's perfect. Yeah.
And you know everything.
Yeah, and listen, I'll be your first guest on that one, I promise. I'll bring the wine.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to post that on YouTube and LinkedIn, but maybe you go to a different platform to view those.
Sure.
So tell us who in your life has pushed you or inspired you and had a real impact on you. I mean, you mentioned your dad was one of the reasons you didn't want to work for him, but you wanted to do what he did. My dad was a gynecologist. There was no way I was following in his footsteps. In any case, like, so
keep that one for the After Dark podcast as well.
Yeah. Did your dad have a positive influence and an impact on you? Did you go and seek out mentors and other people, role models?
To elaborate further, I mean, I did end up going to business with my father for a long spell. My dad had a brokerage in Aberdeen. I had my own self-employed book here in Edinburgh. A lot of my business I was handing in through his mortgage brokerage under his FCA regulations, if you will. But I was self-employed for all intents and purposes. We set up a lettings business together, myself, my father, and my brother, and that became like a second strand of the mortgage brokering proposition, if you will. And we set it up as a partnership, as a family business. And within a year, that business became it was basically vatable in about 13 months. It just blew up. It was pretty big business, the letting side. And I kind of realized that we had two businesses or three businesses, if you will, one in Edinburgh, one in Aberdeen, one that was vatable very, very quickly, two different FCA numbers. It was becoming like an HMRC's auditing dream, if you will. And I had this vision of bringing everything together, combining it all under the one roof, amalgamating these businesses and naming it under the family banner, if you will. And that's essentially where Cox & Co was born. We became a three-way partnership, myself, my brother, and my father. Within about 3-4 years of that, my older brother asked to be bought out. It was very much a job for him and not a career. He enjoyed being a part of it, but he had other hobbies and passions that he wanted to go and explore. So my father and I bought my brother out, and it left just the two of us. Now the problem was, um, my brother was very much the mediator between me and dad. So when my brother left, what I've learned, and it's probably good for a business coach podcast, and we'll maybe delve into this in a bit more detail. Getting into business with family is great as long as you're aligned. And a big thing that I speak a lot about when I speak with my peers is alignment in your business. If you're bringing in new shareholders, investors, new directors, the alignment needs to be there. And one of the biggest learnings I've ever had in business is myself and my dad weren't aligned, and it was causing a lot of friction in the business. I had a big vision of growing what we are now. My dad didn't really want to do that. He wanted to continue running it as single strands and running it as a family business. I wanted to grow this into a multi-million pound business. I think he quite enjoyed the having a lifestyle business, if you will. And from doing that for 40 odd years, I don't think he was ready or willing to go away and start again and rip the business down, build out a platform that will allow for serious exponential growth, and to go and take on X amount of new staff and to go and really have a crack at this. That was really what he was looking for. So COVID was a great opportunity for me to sit my dad down and essentially buy him out of the business. Bought dad out, lovely big golden handshake, made him very, very happy. And it's in the last 5, 6 years, I'm allowed to really kick on and be the master of my own destiny and grow this business into what it's now become.
Amazing. Yeah, we could do a whole other show just on the dynamics of family businesses, but
Sure.
I've coached many family businesses, and some were great and worked well, and some didn't. And it seemed to me it had really nothing to do with the family. It had to do with the lack of alignment. If a business is aligned, it doesn't matter whether you're related or not.
Sure.
We do have a saying in our company, which is that DNA is not a good recruitment strategy. Right? Don't hire people based on their DNA. Hire them based on their skill, will, and ability, and then make sure that they're aligned. And if they happen to be related, great. And if not, but what? So you mentioned that was a big learning for you. What would you say has been your biggest learning over the last 2 decades as a business owner?
It's a difficult one. I need to kind of immediately pinpoint. And as you
Yeah, I know. Pick one.
yeah, autonomy, giving autonomy. The way I've managed to scale Cox and Co to the level that I have, and as quickly that I have, is I've given a lot of trust to my team, a lot of autonomy, while still keeping them on a semi-tight leash, if you will. So I am the all-seeing eye of what goes on here at Cox and Co. But my team have about 95% autonomy on a daily basis. I've trusted in individuals in this business to help me grow it. So therefore, I've got a wonderful directors team. So I have a director of lettings, a director of sales, director of mortgages, director of investment, and I've also got a right-hand man, my director of new business that works alongside me. My D-suite, as I call it, have full autonomy to build their teams below them. They know what their budgets are, they know where they stand, they know where their KPIs are, and they all answer into me on a daily basis. And that allows me to work on the business while getting to dip into the business as and when I see fit. It allows me to pull strings and collaborate with my teams when necessary for certain like higher net worth clients and need a bit more of maybe my time. And it also means that I can now at this point give a bit more time back to family, give a bit more time to the BDing of the business and the networking and the growth and having more conversations about M&A and collaborations, white labeling our service and all the fun stuff as a business owner that I enjoy doing. I'm now able to do because I have learned to trust, give autonomy, and that in itself, giving these people the opportunity to grow in their own positions in the business has helped me grow the business overall.
And I'm glad you mentioned that as your biggest learning, because I find that that's the biggest challenge for business owners is letting go and giving your team autonomy. What advice would you give the ones who are struggling to let go and get out of the way of their team? Because it's not easy, right? Especially your business is your baby, and you're handing it over to a nanny to take care of it for you.
You've got to pick out the areas that you are best at, and those areas that you're best at, you've got to teach the most trusted members of staff all about it. all about those areas, not the wee niggly areas, the stuff that's the real meat that makes the most money for the business. That was the areas I let go of the bits I liked most in my business first, and the menial stuff went last. I have to get to a point whereby there's other money makers in the business,
Yeah.
and I like making money. So I felt, well, the only way when I get this going is if I really spent a lot of time with the sales people within my team, um, to get them up to a level where I can trust them to go away and make the company money. And the company's not going to rely on me to make those calls and sell the deals and get the contract signed. Um, and by trusting in myself. Don't get me wrong, I've had my fingers burnt plenty of times in the past with staff and untrusting people, or things not going quite right. But it's taken a lot of time. I think the ones who aren't able to let go, the question to them should really be, well, have you got the right staff? Have you got the right team? Because if you're not prepared to trust your team, then get rid of them and get other people in. It's quite simple. I built a wonderful team here at Cox and Co. And I trust them entirely. We've got it's not a family. It's not a family whatsoever. I would never call Cox and Co. a family. We're a team. And I'm the team captain. I'm not the coach. So I lead from the front. I lead by example. I carry myself with honesty, accountability, and integrity, and those three words are on the wall next door with the majority of the team, and that is exactly how they carry themselves as well. And as long as they continue doing that, and I'm seeing the numbers go in the right direction, they can do what they like. We've got beer fridges, Andy, in every part of this office, and see at 4 o'clock, if I go through, there's a couple of them sitting having a beer. I'm okay with that because I know they wouldn't be doing that if they hadn't already done their work for the day. Yeah, exactly. And they themselves hold each other accountable through there. They don't need me shouting at them and barking at them. So to go back to your point, where that if that's the biggest challenge for people, they shouldn't be looking at themselves. They should be looking at their team.
And look, the team is a reflection of its leadership. And, I can tell that you would have a great team because you hold yourself to a high standard. So, it's important to be setting a good example. Your team are going to reflect back to you that it's impossible to have a team with a lousy culture and work ethic when you've got that level of ambition, positivity, high standards.
Sure. I mean, again, don't get me wrong, it's taken a long time to get to this point, but when the work hat is on, I'm 100 miles an hour, Andy, and I'm cutthroat and I don't mess around. But with that, I'm going to do it and have fun. Everything's about positivity. Everything here at Caution is about positivity. And as long as you are remaining accountable and carrying yourself with serious integrity and so on, everybody will get on and we're going to do some good work together. Doesn't matter if folk make mistakes, as long as we can fess up to it and we fix it and we learn from it and we move on. That's a big key learning here is like even from our assistants in the office right through to my director's suite, we are all really open and willing to learn together.
Well, we'll know that it's not always been an easy ride.
No.
What would you say has been your biggest challenge over the years? And how did you work through it?
The biggest challenge was the exit of my father, taking the reins myself, away from family, and at that point, immediately having to then make some big changes, getting rid of some staff that were legacy staff I didn't think were right for us. So rehiring and firing and rehiring, restructuring, building out the platform that maybe wasn't quite there. I don't need to teach you these things, Andy, but any of the listeners or viewers, I'm all about platform. I believe the business needs to the wider your platform is, the easier it is for you to grow. The smaller the platform, the easier it is for you to topple over. And I felt that I was about to embark on some serious growth plans with a tiny little platform with some staff I didn't trust. So I pulled everything down, stripped it out, built the platform out to a level where I felt, right, I'm ready to move. Let's go. And within 12 months was on that growth line. And we're still at a point now whereby I spend more time every week on platform than I do on growth.
Great. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of the conversation, John. Just a couple more questions.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
No, it's quite all right. This is great chat. What's the next big thing for you in your business? What does the next 1 to 3 years look like? You're not showing any signs of slowing down, obviously.
No. We're about to launch our commercial pillar. We're currently four pillars in the business. We're about to launch our fifth. We're moving into formal commercial brokering. That'll include a commercial agency. So we'll be doing commercial leasing, commercial purchases and sales. And the big part is commercial finance, moving into asset finance, uh, full scale commercial, whether that be retail right through to industrial. Kind of launching that side over the next 6 months. And let's be honest, look, mergers, acquisitions, buying up other businesses. I'm in it to win it, Andy. I'm not mucking about. The world domination is always a really easy way to make a joke about it. But look, let's be realistic. I'm not planning to go out with the UK. But in the next 3 years, yes, we're going to be in England. We're going to be right over the whole of Scotland. And we're kicking on. We do have a niche. We do have the platform there to grow this niche. So I'm not slowing down.
No, you definitely are not showing any signs of slowing down. What, final question then, what advice would you give business owners who are thinking about going out on their own or who are just starting out on their own?
You know, that first few years are really scary. They're really intimidating. You've got to get past that lifestyle business owner point. There's a lot of walls to break through. You start to grow your business. You're starting to hit walls. You get through that first wall, and you think, "Oh my God, I'm affluent," because you're making enough money to kind of treat yourself. The key there is to rein yourself in, give yourself a hard slap, and go again. And it's not about treating yourself; it's about reinvesting back into your business. And there'll be a few of those sort of times you're going to hit that wall, or you're going to look at the bank balance and there's some cash sitting, and you think this was fantastic. Let's go buy that BMW and let's go to Disney World with the kids. But maybe it's probably better if you bought that car and went on that holiday a year later or 18 months later, because at that point it's probably the prime moment for you to be growing your business, not to go and splash the cash. And it's very hard to make those decisions. And I've got a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old and a wife that likes nice things. And so believe me, I'm in it with everybody else. And my business isn't huge. I've got £1.5 million turnover. £1.5 million turnover, but I still buy the toilet roll every week. That's how I treat my business. I'm in here. I'm in it to win it. I am a business operator, and I hope that in the next 3 to 5 I'll become a business owner. Stop buying those bloody toilet rolls. But I know that I need to keep doing that to have my hands on to keep growing this.
Yeah, like nothing breeds mediocrity like success, right? When you have some success and then we sit and we bask in it rather than keeping our foot on the gas and moving to the next level. And you got to have that consistency and clear and persistence and clear plan, right? Don't get in it and don't get in it unless you're in it to win it. I guess maybe that's the message I'm taking from you.
Yeah, I would agree. You've got to go all out. Got to go all out with it.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, John, we've come up to the end of the show. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you today. I've really enjoyed it. I've taken a bunch of notes, actually. I'm sure some of our viewers will as well. And yeah, really appreciate hearing your story. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Andy, thanks for having me on. And obviously, if any of your viewers, colleagues, anybody wants to get in touch with me, you can find me on LinkedIn or connect with me. I'd love to have a conversation with anybody. I'm a great believer of helping everyone around me because I'm sure it'll all come back around. So hopefully we can connect with yourself again, Andy. Thanks again for having me. And let's see where we go from here. Let's go.
Well, this has been the Founders Chair podcast. We've been talking to John Cox from Cox & Co. in Edinburgh. I've been Andy Goldberg, and thanks very much to all our listeners as well. And we look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Bye-bye.